everyone, welcome to another video. So today we're going to be talking about the stages of data analysis. So before we start, I would like you as usual to complete today's starter. So today's starter is related with your last lesson and is for you to identify three categories of information used by organizations and two used by individuals. So please pause the video, take your time to write these answers, and then carry on with the video to learn about the different stages. All right, so before I actually tell you what data analysis is, I just want to let you know that this video is going to be a bit long, so it's going to actually be two lessons. You will have to stop at some point because if you listen to me for the full 20 minutes, you are a hero. All right, so please stop. Complete the tasks that you are being asked to complete. Make sure that you write your notes, okay? And you will have two lessons to complete this, so don't worry too much about it. All right, so data analysis. Now, data analysis is to find answers to questions that will be based on good quality information from carefully selected and sourced data. So, what is the meaning of that? Well, simply put, data analysis is a way for you to find an answer to a question that you have. Now, you do this every day when you go on Google and you ask Google how is going to be the weather tomorrow, or when you go on Google and ask if a symptom that you might have it's what is it, or for example if a color will match your skin tone. So every time we ask a question, we want to be able to get an answer, but we don't want any answer. We want an answer that is correct, an answer that is from a good source, and an answer that actually is going to help us solve our initial question. Because if I ask you the question, what is the weather going to be like tomorrow, and you give me an answer blue, I mean, the answer doesn't actually answer my question. So what's the point of saying blue, okay? Obviously, when you're going through the stages of data analysis, at the end you will be producing something, a report of some kind for your stakeholders to share with the stakeholders the information that you gathered. So it's not as simple as a question and then an answer, but the idea is the same, okay? The idea is that every time you want a piece of information, that information will start with simple data that is going to be put in a certain context, and obviously will give you that information that hopefully will originate in knowledge. Okay, so three stages and six steps of a quantitative analysis. Now, this is an idea, a diagram that I found that actually explains the idea of today's lesson. Now, one thing is important is that you are aware that OCR actually uses 8 stages, okay, not 6 or 5 as you might find online. So it's important that you know all 8 stages very well. But the idea is all the same, no matter how many stages you have, okay? The idea is to obviously communicate your results at the end and to solve a problem at the beginning. So framing the problem in here, you're going to obviously recognize what the problem is and actually check if anyone ever tried to solve that problem, and what was their solution or what was their findings. And then you're going to obviously model something, some sort of an answer. You're going to collect data, you're going to analyze that data, make sure that the data that you collected makes sense, make sure that is correct, make sure that is applicable for your scenario. So that's quite important, okay? As I said at the beginning, if I ask you a question and you give me an answer that is not related with the question, obviously that doesn't make a lot of sense. And then you're going to present your results and actions, okay? The first stage is identify the need, okay? You'll see that this is one of the most important stages. All of them are important, obviously, for different reasons, but if you don't identify the problem and you don't have the right questions at the beginning, you might get the wrong a wrong conclusion. You might actually get it to the end and don't answer the questions, or you might get a result that is incorrect, which is not what we want. So the stages of data analysis are: the first one, obviously, identify the need, then is define the scope, identify potential sources, source and select information, select the most appropriate tools, process and analyze data, record and store information, and then it's all to do with sharing those beautiful result. Okay, so let's start with our first stage, which is identify the need. Now, there are two questions that you can ask yourself that hopefully will help you to identify, you know, the need of this problem. So, what information is needed to solve this problem, and what do we want to find out? Okay, so those two questions are very, very important, and it is important that you ask the right questions at the beginning, that you actually split the, the work at the beginning well enough that you get these questions that you want to find an answer, almost like a success criteria. Actually, not almost, like a success criteria. Okay, you want to make sure that at the end you have something that will allow you to answer these questions that you have asked at the beginning. Okay, obviously, in here, in this stage, you are going to set the objectives, and those objectives need to be clear and well defined. Okay, uh, it is so important that this is done correctly. Okay, that your objectives are defined correctly, that your questions, whatever they are, make sense for the problem. Okay, uh, you do not want to actually lead to worthless results. Okay, you don't want to um, because of your lack of definition at the beginning, because you didn't really um, set your objectives clearly, you end up with worthless results. Okay, you wasted the whole process, and believe me, this process is long. It's 8 steps, so you do not want that to happen. Okay, and that is why this is one of the most important points. Now, yes, it is hard to make sure that your objectives are done clearly, but that is the reason why you are going to be given a scenario, and this is uh, why you have to actually um, talk with the client. You actually have to make sure that he gives you all the information that you require. Okay, so without all of that, you are not going to be able to then complete this first stage, which is identify the need. Okay, the next one is define the scope. Now, when we are defining the scope, we are deciding how to measure and what to measure. So how are we going to measure what we are defining, and what are, how and what, okay, are we going to measure? This is the step or stage that you are going to as well think about the restrictions of your project. Okay, so you're going to be thinking about the budget, you're going to be thinking about time, you're going to make sure that they are identified, that they make sense. You're going to see if there's any other constraints, any other problems. Maybe, you need some license to be able to complete that project. So you're going to define and make sure that your restrictions of the project are done, and they are done and defined correctly. Okay, the next one is identify potential sources. So, in here, you're going to identify a wide range of sources of information, okay, that covers the objectives. So, your project planners need to identify where can they get this information, and make sure that this information is not biased, okay, and it covers all the objectives. So good examples of this could be customer surveys or sales figures. All right, so this is again important, that you are not biased, that the information, the sources that you're using are sources that will be able, you are going to, at the end, you will be able to get a result that will not be questioned. All right, so this is a good example of this is the whole pandemic situation that we are living. There's a lot of people that believe that this might be a conspiracy theory, and there's a lot of people that believe that this is a pandemic. Now, it doesn't matter what your belief or my belief here is, okay? That's not what I'm questioning, or that's not what I want to approach here. What I want to the reason why I gave you this idea is for you to have an idea of what I mean by being biased, because everyone that believes that this is propaganda, that this is not real, will go and get sources and information from papers, from doctors that say exactly that. But everyone that believes that the pandemic is real is going to get sources and papers from that side as well. All right. So think about as well, being a meat eater and being a vegan is always like that. It is hard when we want to express something to be biased. But if we are not biased, then whoever's going to get those results are not going to be able to do much with it. I mean, a few months ago, I saw this amazing documentary about veganism and health benefits and etc. But it was brilliant. I really enjoy it. But then the conclusion was so biased. I could clearly see that they only gather information and only gather doctors that were in favor of being a vegan. And I thought, well, then is it all this wonderful world? Because I couldn't really see the other side. I left, you know, when that show finished, I was felt a little bit unsure about their findings, if that makes sense. Okay, so you want to make sure when you're collecting or identifying your potential sources that you are going to bring everything to the table to get your conclusion. Okay, awesome. So the next one is source and select information. Now, obviously, this is related with stage number 3, okay? And in here, what you're going to do is, now that you have all of these amazing sources and you have all of this amazing information, you're going to select the one that is applicable to your scenario, and then you're going to exclude anything that is not, okay? That might be because you're obviously trying to answer a few questions and you do not want to see other areas on the same problem, because they're not going to bring anything beneficial to you, or they're not even related to what you're talking about. Okay. Planners need to select the best and most reliable data. This is when you must, the person that is planning this project must be aware where this data is coming from, where this information is coming from. You might want to use, more academic um, uh, resources. You might want to use publications there have been certified, etc., instead of that YouTuber or that blog that you read something about a particular topic. Okay. All right, so I'm going to obviously ask you to pause this video, so my video, to go and watch the video that it's on the PowerPoint. Now, this video here is quite interesting, and you will match and you will make you realize that the way that you ask questions can lead to different outputs. So, and those outputs are going to be used to obviously as a source for you to get your results. So this is all to do with what I was talking about, when people are against something or pro something. It doesn't really matter if it's the fact that you don't eat meat, you eat meat, you are you know you believe in COVID, you don't, you agree with vaccines, you don't, you think the earth is flat, or you don't. It doesn't really matter. You are always going to get the conclusion that you want, that will be in favor for your debate. Okay, so this video kind of shows that in a funny way, so go and watch this because I think it's quite interesting and it is entertaining, and it's only 2 minutes, so go and watch that. All right, awesome. Okay, so when you're ready, come back to the video because I've been talking for quite a while. Now it's time for you to do a quick task, and this will be it for today's kind of session. All right, so your quick task is to list all the 8 stages in order and then to tell me what data analysis is. Now, when you list all the 8 stages, make sure that you give a quick definition for the ones that we talk about. Make sure that you make notes, okay? So don't leave all the notes for the end of the video. Start making them as we go, especially because this video is going to be huge and you don't want to have to listen to me for like 20 or 25 minutes and then realize, oh, I have to listen to her for 20 and 25 minutes again to make my notes. So go and do that. And yeah, so next session we will carry on. Okay. All right. So hopefully you've done all of this. You are happy, and now we are going to be talking about 4 more stages. So the other 4 stages that we are missing. Okay. So the next one is select the most appropriate tools. Okay. So at this stage, you are going to select what are the most appropriate tools to analyze this information. What is the meaning of that? So sometimes using a chart or a graph or a table is not very appropriate for the piece of information um, that you are reviewing or that you are analyzing. So you want to make sure that you select the correct ones. You want to make sure that the data is present in the best way possible, and you want to make sure that you can actually see the results clearly and they make sense. So whenever you see the results, no matter which tool you picked, you want to make sure that they make sense and they are clear, and there's no reason to question those results. Okay, again, charts and graphs are great for visual representation of the data. Another thing in here to take in consideration is the fact that you can use these 2 type of analysis, so trend analysis and regression analysis. So regression analysis can be used or can also be used in determining of relationships. So if the amount spent on advertising a bottled water increases, will the consumption increase too? Are other factors involved? So in here, the idea behind regression analysis is that you are analyzing something in one specific period of time, and you are checking if other if other resources or other factors involved will influence in your result. Okay, so this is quite important because you are measuring the impact on something, you know but you are obviously analyzing all the other variables that will impact that result. Okay, and the trend analysis can be presented in many ways, but it's an attempt to present findings over time, so that behavior patterns over a period of time rather than in one precise moment. So both of them are a way for you to obviously represent data, and both of them are very, very important. Okay, so I hope this makes sense, because regression analysis considers how changing only one of many different variables affects an outcome. Okay, so you are going to change something in a specific period of time, but obviously, how is that going to affect uh, your outcome? How is that going to affect a result? While the trend analysis, it's about the behavior over a period of time rather than a precise moment. All right, awesome. Okay. The next one is process and analyze data. So, uh, at this stage, you collect the data. Now you need to process that data. You need to actually make sure that that data makes sense, and you need to store that data. So you might want to use a spreadsheet or a database to do that. And this is awesome to find those patterns and those trends that I was talking about, because now you're going to process that data, is going to actually be inputted in some way in a specific place that you are going to process that data and then present the results. Obviously, when we talked about the tools, these tools are now going to be used to present the results. Okay, then you're going to record and store the information. So now it's the time where you're going to not answer, write your report about all the findings. Okay, you're going to write your report because you now gone through all the stages. You now analyze that data. You collect the best information, the best data. You obviously try to not be biased. You have the points of view that are necessary. You have the issues, the constraints of the project. You have your success criteria. Now it's time for you to write your report, and make sure that you go back to that success criteria at this stage. You need to uh, answer those original questions. Okay, uh, you need to as well make sure that the data help you defend against any objection. So this is a very strong report. It needs to be a strong analysis with strong data. Okay, and you need to as well present the limitations if there are any limitations in your conclusion. And the last one is to share your findings. Now, you might share your findings through a report, paper report. You might email your findings. You might share your findings online, but you need to share them. You need to share them with your stakeholders. Okay, no matter who your stakeholders are. Now that you've gone through all of these stages, you got this piece of information that needs to be shared. All right, so this is one of the most important topics, I would say. I probably you're thinking you say that about every topic, makes miss, but I just think this one in particular, the fact that it makes you think about how all of this data that we read daily, it's filtered and is treated so that we get a result, and that result is shared with us. All right, and how can we obviously get data from different places and then somehow manipulate our results to be whatever we want, which we normally do when we are having a healthy discussion with someone and we have a different point of view than that person. We try to use all of the resources that will support our point of view to obviously justify why we're saying what we're saying. Okay. All right. So to finish, tasks. Uh, Carry on creating your knowledge organizer mind map for the other four stages, and then please answer this question over here, which is to explain how the supermarket would use the 8 stages for a particular scenario. Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.